Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a look here at Hero, see kind of what's going on, of course. I get a lot of requests for this one, so I figured I'd just go ahead and cover it and just kind of help us understand what's going on. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. If you're new to the channel, just love teaching people how to trade. Been trading for over 15 years. My goal is to help you become a better trader, so if you learn something here today, that'd be fantastic. I have a trading community and academy where I teach you how to become a better trader, and of course, send out signals for every single trade that I take so you know how to structure your trades effectively. So of course that website is in the description below, CryptoCache.tech. Check that out in your own time. But for now, with Hero, let's start with a one-day chart and work our way down. Now, for starters, we're back up above the 50-day SIP moving average, right? It's been a while since we've had that. In fact, there's less trading data, so to speak, anyways, whereas the price was probably up above it previously, but hasn't essentially been back up in a while. Great news is we're back over that. That's an extremely important thing, and this push here recently obviously has a lot to do with it. Taking a look here, of course, at that push, we're back up over 50 and under 70 on the RSI. That's extremely important. I love to see that. As long as we can kind of stay under 70 on the RSI, it's important. In fact, I venture to guess the price was getting rejected by 70 on the RSI based on how large this candle wick is. It was trying to push up really hard, really fast, and it got kind of rejected, so to speak. It's also a lot to do with today. 5% correction from Bitcoin will impact most coins, including Hero, even though it's done very well, contrary to Bitcoin selling off. So that's an important thing to recognize, right? If you see this constant increase here, and if you were to kind of compare it with Bitcoin, it is a significant difference in price action, okay? So that's important to understand because honestly, when you can find a coin that does something like this and performs like this, it's a great sign, great testament to how well it's probably likely going to continue to do over the near future. Once again, right now appears to be overextended just from the outside looking in. So you might want to be cautious on your entry point, but why don't we go ahead and identify that? In fact, we look at the MACD, obviously swinging upwards here. You can see it starting to taper off though a little bit and that losing that momentum, which is normal and good. We kind of need it to consolidate soon before it gets too crazy. And what I mean by crazy is just, parabolic increases are not healthy in my personal opinion. I don't like to trade those. Yes, if you're a momentum trader, maybe a different story. But I prefer to try to, buy when I have confirmation, not necessarily when it's confirmed that it's almost near the top, right? Therefore, why don't we go ahead and see if we can identify that here. So we're up over the 50-day SIP moving average. It's trending closer to about 83 cents. That's excellent. So it does kind of reiterate 83 cents as a potential support. Now we take a look at volume here. Of course, we see a strong base in volume in the last, basically last 2 months. If we go back a lot further, of course, we can see there's more volume above the current price point, so that could work as a resistance, right? So once again, 11 cents or 11.5 cents as a close approximate is the major resistance channel, which is right in the middle here, of course, of this upper Fibonacci retracement level between 0 and 1.272. So this area here between 11, or actually, we can round up and say 11 and 12 cents is going to be a point of potential contention where we might see more resistance and we need to build a stronger foundation of volume at the current price point in order to break through that. Again, it doesn't always happen that way, but that is hopefully the goal, right? And if we take a look here at TD sequential too, we can kind of see that we're at a 6 here, right? So if you are familiar with TD sequential at all, what it does, it takes the fourth previous candlestick and counts up to a 9. When you hit a 9, it'll either retrace and or consolidate. Sometimes it can break through a 9 and go into overtime. You might see an extra 2 or 3 days worth of candles or momentum into the upside. But what this is telling us here is we've had 6 continuous days of upside, which basically implies we might have 3 potential days left of this continuation pattern upwards. Now, bear in mind, Bitcoin drops 41,500. That's a key level support for Bitcoin. We could see it drop a little further from there based on a low volume and kind of being at a sell wall, so to speak, or correction, more of a buy wall. Then if that buy wall is broken, we drop under 40,500, we fill that CME gap, we could very well see a decrease in price from Hero. So just be mindful of that. With today's retracement, it makes sense considering how overextended it's kind of gotten over the last few days. But generally speaking, you want to be cautious and careful going into a coin that's had this kind of momentum over the last few days. It should continue, but it also could not, right? It could slow down, so to speak. And that's not a problem, just kind of letting you know with this increased volume, if that volume starts to decrease, it might be a different story. But good news is, you see yesterday, there's low volume and low selling pressure, basically just allowing for the buying pressure to increase. So, the whomever has the large majority of this coin is not trying to sell it at this point. That's a good sign. They're not trying to take those profits per se. All right, so ultimately that's all good stuff here, all well and good. Looking at the 4-hour chart, we want to go ahead and identify a couple things. First of all, we have a MACD convergence, or sorry, more so a convergence on the SMA lines, which essentially just implies that we have it's considered a golden cross when the 50 intersects with a 200 in upward fashion, the price action is above. In fact, you see this nice long candle here as a result of it. It's a very common characteristic in a lot of coins. More specifically with Bitcoin, when you see this happen on Bitcoin, other altcoins can have that similar effect. But for the most part here at this point with Hero, that's a great sign. We're up above both moving averages. We're under 70, over 50. And we also have this potential divergence on the MACD, but that makes sense considering how strong of a red candle we had here recently. That was when the market opened. And of course, we heard the news and things kind of shifted direction, so to speak. All right. But all in all, doing very, very well. In fact, this is a pretty healthy continuation too. I love seeing this staircase type of pattern where the price continues upwards essentially, and it's not going, crazy, stupid bonkers, which is what Bitcoin's been doing recently. And it's kind of a pain in the ass, honestly, to try to trade right now. And that has a lot to do with the market. Hero is effectively broken itself somewhat free from Bitcoin. I'm not saying it completely because obviously it's still reliant on somewhat of a success and to not have a strong red candle when we open the market. But minus that fact, Hero's doing very well. It's consolidating nicely. We have these nice little patterns here. In fact, we look at TD sequential. You can see nothing larger than 8. Comes up to an 8, resets, comes back down. Comes up to an 8, resets, and now we're back up to a 6, and we got a little reset here. So hypothetically, we're going to consolidate if it continues the same type of progression. We're going to have roughly about 12 to 24 hours worth of sideways action, and then another leg up. So there, and then up again. I'm willing to guess we're going to test 10.6 cents, which is the key level resistance currently, the most highest point at which it could go. In the near future, right? I think it's likely to do that more so than come down. Again, pending Bitcoin doesn't do anything crazy obnoxious and drop below 41,500. I feel as if Hero will continue at least for 3 or 4 more days. So again, that's just kind of the way that it feels right now, just technical data. If this aligns itself with Bitcoin once again, starts losing that momentum, that volume starts to decrease, then we're going to see some volatility perhaps to the downside. You got to be ready for that. So just to touch on that too, if the price were to kind of lose its current price action, so to speak, and start making lower highs and lower lows, we would see 8.3 and 7.6 cents as the next potential dollar cost average targets. 8.3, 7.6, and or 6.9. Okay, those are good DCA targets essentially for Hero if we were to continue to just say digress. But ultimately, even if you're looking at the 1-hour chart, still making higher highs and higher lows. So ultimately, not a bad thing. Okay, we're good. Do not worry too much about this. This is absolutely still in play, but I would be cautious and optimistic in the sense that you might want to adjust your stop losses higher if you're in a swing trade and you're up a good 20, 30, 40%. What is it? From bottom to top, roughly. This is how much trading data? In 7 days, we're up about 111% on Hero. So that's a pretty significant increase. And I would, again, recommend not being a greedy folk and try to consider taking some profits if you got in at the bottom and you're right here closer to the top. There's nothing wrong with 110% profit or 90%, 80%. We got to start getting realistic here. The fact that, you compare this to the traditional stock market, man, 5 or 10% day is awesome. Most people yield 10 to 20%, I would say, as a high average in the traditional stock market per year. And we're scoffing at a 10, 20, 30% gain, oftentimes in 24 hours. So please try to just center yourself here and know that this is a significant increase. Yes, it will likely continue, but if it doesn't and you don't take your profits, you're going to be sad and upset that you didn't, perhaps, right? Again, just a consideration if you're a long-term hodl or this is a swing trade you're committing to for months or quite a long time, for example, don't even worry about this. Just know you're on the right track, right? You did a good job if you got in somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 cents. In fact, comment below if you did, because that's awesome. Congratulations. But generally speaking, yeah, everything's looking good here. Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and quickly identify the cloud and just kind of see where we're at, because this to me is a good indication of roughly where we're at. Now, here's something we need to understand. And again, it's given this signal before too, so it doesn't necessarily mean you have to close your position. Maybe consider trimming. But generally speaking, the lagging span is getting really close to the price action. So unless we see a leg up soon from Hero, which I think is less likely considering the current climate, then I would expect for the price to either A, consolidate and or retrace a little bit, okay? So that's just kind of what we're expecting and generally what we're seeing here so far with Hero. So again, all good stuff. I wouldn't worry too much about it or overthink it, but again, long-term position, you're in good shape. If you are in a short-term swing trade, you might want to consider taking your profits because the likelihood of it coming down at least to maybe 8.3, I think is fairly high because it does look like it's consolidating at this resistance at about 9.3. And if we start making lower highs and lower lows, as soon as our most recent low as soon as our next low is lower than 81 cents, or sorry, 8.1 cents, then we can anticipate lower highs and lower lows perhaps from that point, and it could come down to consolidate. But as long as we stay over 8.3, I think we're in pretty good shape. So we'll see how 8.3 holds as a support level. I hope you learned something here today. If you did, comment below. Consider becoming a community member if you aren't already. In fact, most of my community members request that I cover this here, of course. And that's just kind of what I do. I like to make sure that everyone's profitable and staying, in the know as much as possible, which is why I make a Bitcoin video every day. Check that out, of course, so you know kind of what's going on in the market. I did cover some cool stuff with, Bitcoin dominance and the CME gaps, which are important to understand as well. So again, CryptoCache.tech is the website. Consider joining. I do look forward to working with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. You take care now.